Hello Houston, welcome to Bar Banter. I'm your host, Mr. Menendez. In tonight's episode, we're going to be at Ron's Pub, one of my favorite drinking establishments. The place has been here since the 1990s, and we're going to be talking to some people about politics, religion, education, and different other topics that are very important in today's society. So, vamos a darle. So we over here in Bar Banter with my boy Townsend. My name is Mr. Menendez. Right now we wanted to get some ideas of what Townsend's been thinking. I think every time I come over here, he's a very interesting person. And how you doing tonight, man?
I'm pretty good, man. You all right?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. How you feeling?
I'm good.
We got Genevieve over there in the corner.
Genevieve. That's Genevieve over there. Oh, yeah. That's Genevieve.
Thank you for not filming me.
Oh, yeah. Genevieve's cool as hell. Oh, shit.
Well, Townsend, there's a lot of things going on right now in the world, man. You know, the first thing I wanted to ask you, man, you watch news? You watch politics?
I try not to, but I do.
Try not to? Okay. What do you think?
I love.
There you go. I love.
I will totally. No.
That's a beautiful shot. That's a beautiful shot.
Right?
That's what I'm talking about.
So, yeah, I try not to watch the news, but I try to keep myself updated
Why don't you watch the news?
because it's full of bullshit.
You think it's full of bullshit?
Every network you watch, it's just sensationalism and, you know, it's just the story of the day.
You think it's fake news?
I don't want to say it's fake news, but a lot of people don't know how to discern what's real and what's not.
So how would you tell people nowadays, like, how do you digest the news?
You can't tell anyone how to digest the news. It's for how you take it.
Okay.
And how you digest it. I can't. It's just what the news does. They give you a story and certain talking points, and they expect you to go by what their word. You know what I mean? So if I was to tell someone how to digest, they'll be going by my word.
Right.
You know what I mean? To each his own. You have to digest the news how you choose.
You have kids?
No.
No. So let's say I was a younger kid right now, and I went up to you and said, Townsend, you know, like, Eric, I want to learn more about the news. I want to know how this news are either fake or they're real. I mean, what kind of advice would you give me?
I would say use your own common sense.
Okay.
Basically use your own common sense.
Do you think people use their common sense nowadays when they're watching the news?
Common sense ain't that common anymore.
It's not common, huh?
No.
Like, do you see, like, when the people are, do you have a particular channel that you like watching with the news? Or?
I like my local channels because I like to know what's going on in my city.
Right.
You know, but as far as the big networks,
You don't watch CNN?
I mean, I do, but I take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? My local news. I get my weather. I get what's going on up the block. I get the real. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, if I ever watch the news, that's what I rely on.
Right. Do you think, like, whenever you watch the news between CNN and Fox News, everybody's like doing talking points and just coming up with different ideas of what they should preach to the nation, and then that's news, not actual facts?
The problem with it is both sides can be very biased to the situation.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to use a harder discernment. I watch Fox every now and then just to see what they're saying. You know what I mean?
Right.
And compare it to what's going on CNN and formulate my own opinion.
Okay.
But I feel like they're all one and the same.
Well, that's a very smart idea, you know. But the news are kind of like biased nowadays. You know, it's either too right or too left, right? Would you agree? Like, you know, so let me ask you this, man. As a black man, as a Puerto Rican man, how do you feel that the news is basically attacking, how they approach us with every single story that they put out there?
I think it's bullshit.
Right.
For one, I think it's bullshit. I deal with the people that's around me, that's in my circle.
Right.
And that's who I deal with. As far as a black and white issue or anything like that, I mean, it's just another talking point to keep us divided. it's an agenda.
Right.
I feel like it's.
Do you think that both sides are doing that, like trying to keep people divided nowadays?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and
Absolutely.
conquer. You read the Art of War?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I did. But the one thing I will say that the people around my circle, I mean, like you said, I worked at a yoga studio for 8 years. I managed that yoga studio, and I mean, I have a plethora of friends. I can't tell you how many white friends or black friends, Hispanic, Asian, Indian. I mean, my friends are my friends.
Right.
And
There's no color in friendship, right?
exactly. And in that circle, if we ever talk politics, it's not a debate. It's a discussion.
It's a discussion, right?
No one gets heated. No one, and I feel like at the bar, you know, talking politics at the bar just makes no sense. It makes no sense because everybody's drinking.
Right.
You know what I mean? By the time you get to the point of a conversation of politics, somebody's drunk.
Somebody's gonna get hurt, right?
It ain't about somebody getting hurt. Ain't nobody gonna remember that shit tomorrow. So why even give my opinion? You know what I mean? So that's just who I am.
So Townsend, so all this stuff that's going on with like North Korea and Trump and North Korea, how do you feel about this, man? Like,
I don't have any feelings. I don't know. You know, that sort of politics, I really don't get into because it's always been. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. What I really feel like,
do you vote?
yeah, I vote.
Independent?
I mean, it's not necessarily who I vote for, whatever I vote for. I mean, we have a two-party system. I mean, there was there was a Native American chief, and he said it best. He was like, you know, Democrats and Republicans are two wings on the same bird. You know what I mean?
That's what they say about Cuba and Puerto Rico. You know that, right?
Nuh-uh. But they're two wings on the same bird. So if there was any kind of change that's going to happen, we need a strong third-party system because I feel like, and this is my personal view, I feel like the Democratic and the Republican Party take the moral compass, the best moral compass of anyone, and they divide it. So they have you either against abortion or they just divide us, you know what I mean, and make you want to choose, you know. And I mean, I'm not going to tell you my view on camera or whatever, but I have my views, but I strongly feel like they divide the moral compass of this country, and they keep us divided, which is messed up. So if you had a third-party system that took the best of the moral compass of both of those parties, I think we'd have something.
So we had a third-party system, I mean, in this last election, right? I mean, we had Jill Stein and we had the other guy from Utah where, you know, people could have voted for. And why do you think people didn't vote for them?
Because they're not as powerful as the Democratic and the Republican Party.
They don't have the money?
I don't know if it's the money or the clout, but you have to realize who's running the Democratic Party, who's running the Republican Party. I think it starts with that. And so, I mean, America's what it is. I feel like every president that we've had has been a pawn. You know what I mean? Yeah, he has a job. He has the highest job in, you know, the highest office in the world, but he's still working for somebody else.
So would you consider yourself more of an idealist that's against the system?
Am I against the system?
And when I'm against the system, I don't mean doing harm to the system. You're just against the system. You don't agree with it. You choose to have your own beliefs and views, but you know, you go about your life on a regular basis.
That's exactly what I do. I mean, the system is what it is. You know what I mean? The system has to be changed from within. And what's been running this game is going to keep running this game until it changes, you know. That's just it.
So let me ask you something else, Townsend. Every time I come to this bar with you, man, sometimes there's music playing, right? So I'm very into music, politics, religion. So let's talk about music, man. Do you listen to any type of music?
I like old school.
Old school music.
I 90s music. I mean, I like 90s hip hop. I mean, 90s anything. I'm an old head, and
Who's your favorite artist from the 90s?
Outkast.
Outkast. Okay.
Outkast.
Why you like Outkast? Rudy Ma.
Because they had, I mean, it's one of the last groups that really had a statement in their music. You know what I mean? I mean,
what kind of statement do you feel that they have in the music industry?
I mean, it's just the struggle. You know, I mean, a lot of rap today. I feel like most people can't relate.
What do you feel that? So elaborate on that.
Most people can't relate because they're not balling out of control. You know what I mean? They don't have these fancy cars. They don't have, you know, the jewelry, all these women or whatever. And I feel like they lose touch, or they influence someone to go try to do that by ill means, which will land their ass in prison. You know, so I don't agree.
So I'm over here with Sylvia, the bar Banter. Sylvia, how are you tonight?
I'm good. Good, really good.
Sylvia is a
Art teacher.
art teacher at a high school, middle school, elementary school.
Elementary.
School. And we were talking to Sylvia earlier about pretty much everything that's going on in the world. So Sylvia and I were talking about school shootings, right? How do you feel about it? It's not a subject to laugh at, but how do you feel about school shootings?
Well,
As a school teacher.
well, the problem is that it's not necessarily the school shootings. It's the disconnect that kids are having about the seriousness and the effects of what it's doing by doing shootings. You have to understand that we have children that are developing at a young age that they have they don't understand the consequences behind they picking up a gun and actually killing somebody, this is the saddest part about it, because they see a gun, they pick it up, they get mad at some kids, and they're gonna shoot them. It's not like a video game, which I believe that it's pretty much in their minds like that. Sad to say, look at it. 25 years ago, we did not have this. People had guns all the time. They went with their families to go shoot a deer, or a pig, or a turkey. And that was cool. And it was no problem. Now, they're taking the guns in the schools and shooting each other. There's a lot going on there, and I may not be able to explain all of it, because I'm not every child, and I'm not every parent. All I know, I'm not every child, not every parent. However, I do know that there is a cross between the technology that we've ensued upon our generations for the last since the Gen X, Gen Y, and millennials, and the Me Too, whatever you want to say. It's hard to really say, because we're too busy as parents going to work, working to try to take care of our families. Yes, kids watch internet and watch video games and do that, but and a lot of times we don't think second thoughts of how that's affecting our kids. I've been a teacher, and teachers go to school to learn about psychology, of how to teach children. But parents don't realize that, and neither do children. Children don't understand the dynamics of being able to, how would you say, decipher between reality of, okay, you're a third grader, for example, and you give them a joke that's sarcastic. Are they going to really take that as understand that?
Well,
not necessarily.
No, not necessarily. And most people don't know, Sylvia. So let's take it back a bit. So how long have you been teaching?
12 years.
12 years. Okay, so you're from Chicago originally. So did you work in the Chicago school district?
No, I did not. I was called a soft good stylist. I got married in Chicago. I had I had a young son. I got married in Chicago, and we moved to Arkansas, then later moved to Texas. And that's where we raised our son. I already had two children that were older, but my youngest son was special needs. He was he needed to have services, and so I became a special ed teacher. However, I wanted to be an art teacher. I became a special ed teacher. Now, I was not able to be in the school that he was going to, but I taught at other schools, and I know that special ed is a big rainbow of needs of what kids need. Okay, but that was like in 2004. Now we're in 2018, and so I've taught special education and I've taught art. But South Texas is totally different than Houston. And Houston has grown tremendously and tremendously diverse in the past 5 years as far as like different cultures. Chinese, we have Middle Eastern, we have African, we have all different cultures of people. Whereas like, you could think about it 10 years ago, it was basically, if you were Hispanic, you were considered an alien. And now we have all these different cultures. So it's hard for the parents. I think the parents need to be educated as well as the kids. I went to Columbia College in Chicago, and I also have a master's degree in education administration from Lamar University. But a lot of things.
Where's Lamar University?
It's in Beaumont. But a lot of things you have to understand that teachers have to continuously have continuing education all throughout their.
Yes, you have to.
And that's Region 4. They have different regions where you go there and you are updated on different things of education for children.
Hey, Sylvia, what's going on?
Hi, Manish. Glad to see you here.
So we
Same
have
here,
a
the
new
pleasure.
person over here, Manish. Nice to meet you.
Same here, the pleasure's all mine, sir.
Manish, you just popped up out of nowhere, man. What do you do exactly?
I'm actually, by education, I'm a geologist, but but I do pipeline work for enterprise products.
Okay.
So I run an asset for them.
Okay. So we were talking about education before you walked in. Are you familiar with? Can you provide us with any insight as to the education right now in the United States?
Yes, I can. Actually, because when I was in my downturn, when the economy was down, I was a tutor. And I learned something when I was tutoring physics and math. But what I realized was that what we are teaching are just the rules of education. We are not actually making children think. And what I would like to do is that actually I want children to think on their own. I want them to think outside the box to begin with. I want them to create the new rules of physics and not follow what is there today. Because if status quo exists, there is no innovation.
So have you thought about perhaps going from the private industry into the teaching industry?
Yes, that is one of my passions. So yes, education is my passion. I want to teach. I want to go back and really make that difference happen with those youngsters that we see. And that's what I was trying to do when I was tutoring. And it's amazing to see as to those smart children right there, but they are not able to think outside. You give them one equation, they just follow the line and toe the line. But what if you change the equation, change the parameters, and then what happens?
So let me question you a little bit, because a lot of people that come from the private industry, I would imagine in the private sector you're making a lot more money than a teacher would. What would be a motivation or an incentive that would provoke you from leaving the private sector and going into the public school system and teach kids?
I won't actually mind that, but yes, I have to pay bills. But I would rather actually teach pro bono if that's possible and actually make that difference happen at the grassroots level. So I would rather do it pro bono, and I think because my income would actually sustain that, and I would do it pro bono.
Any programs or anything that you would do next the school semester in order to help kids or accomplish the goal that you have in the moment?
So I'm trying to actually do that. So I've spoken to the principal where my daughter goes to school at T.S. Rogers, and I will go back and ask
Where
him.
is that school?
T.S. Rogers. So that's right here on San Felipe and Bering. So I've gone as yes, it is part of the SIS. It's a Vanguard program.
Okay.
So it's actually the fourth best in the country. That's what I've heard. So I have gone and spoken to the principal. I said that okay, fine, this is what it is, because I'm a geologist, I'm a GIS professional. I would rather actually have those young kids see this on a different platform and excite them on seeing maps and how maps can be beautiful, and how you can make those. How do you actually go back and say that Google give me directions from here to here? It is not easy. It is not easy. And you have a lot of math and a lot of optimization that goes through with it. So how do you excite a child, go back and say that, okay, fine, go from here to your mom's place. So then how do you excite them? Oh, then you go back and draw a line. You can take a bird's eye view of it, or you can take the roads for it. And then the complexities come in is that, okay, the speeds are different, and then we have construction here, so you have to manage all of that. So that is how all those optimization algorithms work. But how do I excite the child? You want to get there faster to your mom, and I think I can make it happen for you.
So let me ask you something else, man. You said something earlier about how kids need to apply education into the real life, right? Basically, essentially, that's what you were talking about. So I agree with you that a lot of times, kids learn whatever they've been taught in school, and that doesn't necessarily apply to the real world. If you teach them math, in a sense, right? So if you tell them, if they're learning about they're learning algebra, geometry, or they're learning, chemistry, or they're learning any subject out there, are they going to use it in the real world? Like a lot of times, teachers come up to students, or they have these programs, and they teach a lot of subjects, or a lot of, students get a lot of information that may or may not be useful in the real world. How do you feel about, what you will bring to the table as a teacher, as a
Your question is actually two-folded.
Yes.
So your question is two-folded. One is actually how the education system here is, and then what is the application of it. So everybody goes back and says that, okay, fine, force is equal to m into a. That works. But then you have to go back and explain as to why the force is m into a. A lot of times, what is lacking is that they don't explain why force is m into a. That is one part. That is one part. The second part of it is that how do you apply that equation to your real life? You can go back and pick up a glass like this and say that, okay, this is my force applied, this is the mass applied, and you can go back and explain it that way. But to a youngster there, you have to go back and explain it that, okay, when you go back and go back and say that, okay, fine, I'm going to take a striker and I will do this, or throw a dart, or go play pool. It's a lot of physics involved in that. And that is the application of how and why it is important.
This is what we were getting at. Like, how are those concepts that gonna be able to be useful for these kids nowadays, for them to use them in
One point that I'll make is that there is no science without art, and there is no art without science. Studying science is an art. You have to understand the art in that science. And science is very visual. It's all very graphic. You see it. Yeah. So it's an art. You cannot just go back and just say that, okay, fine, I'm going to just, if I want to move this glass from here to here, I just go and push it. No, I have to move it.
But you have to understand too.
So the point is that you have to really understand the concept of it. Okay, let me ask a very hypothetical question. Why are we all similar? We all have a nose, two eyes, this face, and everything. So why are we all pretty? We are all pretty. We are all pretty, right?
You don't have an eye up here now.
So we say that the beauty lies in the beholder's eye. And it's a philosophical point, but there is a scientific basis to it. There's something which is called as a golden ratio. There's a golden ratio. Your dimensions are from here to here, and the nose and this. Your dimensions, her dimensions, and my dimensions are exactly the same. So that's what is called as the golden ratio. So we are not different. They're same.
It's all a proportion equal to your face to everyone else's face.
Is that something that's unknown rule?
Oh yeah.
No, it's not unknown. It's a known rule.
So let's say that. I don't know much about science, but I want to get into it.
Now I'll go back and put the golden ratio onto paintings of Rembrandt and Titian. If you look at the women that Rembrandt and Titian drew, even Da Vinci, all those paintings are based on the golden ratio.
So what about all the other ancestors that were here before us, based on evolution? Would they have the same ratio?
They were exactly similar. The ratio did not change.
Even
You can measure a cockroach. It will still be the same.
Talking about our past ancestors, like anybody that was Neanderthals
You can take Neanderthals and you can take that. Yes, the proportion did not change. Even in that, they did not change. Even when you look at the chimpanzees today or monkeys today, the the ratio did not change. Even if you look at a seashell, when you go back and see that spiral, the rate at which it grows on the golden ratio.
I want to show the fucking kids of the world. Look, you guys are missing out on everything. There's so much shit that you, as a 46-year-old, me as a 40-year-old, that these kids don't have any. You have kids?
I do.
How old are your kids?
9 and 12.
Boy, girl.
2 boys.
2 boys.
And my kids are a little different because I raised them as I was raised, right? And the kids today that I see, that like their friends that have been raised, their parents watch movies about being kidnapped. Their parents watch movies about their kids getting abused. All this horrible stuff. Just in general, the media and everything in general just talks about how horrible life is for children, right? And how dangerous it is. And so, I don't think so. Okay. Thank you. I don't think so, and I think that's one of the big problems is you have these helicopter parents that are
What's the helicopter?
They're constantly hovering over their children and not letting them just be kids.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I'd wake up in the morning on Saturday morning and I had my choice either to watch cartoons or go hop on my bike, and I wouldn't come back till the sun went down. And
no, this is my shot. Don't take my shot.
Cut. Well, he gets a shot.
Right.
Wow, he squirted.
thanks for giving me your shot. Cheers, cheers.
Who's your daddy?
That's reciprocated. So when I was growing up, we had free reign. We cruised the neighborhood. We didn't have cell phones and texting and all the social media stuff. If we wanted to find out what our friend was doing, we'd ride our bike to his house or ride our skateboard over there and go knock on the door, and that was it. And
if they wanted to come on and play, most of the time they did, right? Okay, let's go play, but unless they were grounded or something, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a crapshoot every time you went over there. But you had friends, like, you had a bunch of them. So people were more social, I think, than they are right now, because right now you send out a friend request or a text saying, hey, Do you want to do this? And you don't know if someone's going to respond to you or not. Back then, it was like you bang on their door, and they came out and played with you.
Right now, nowadays, there's not that agreement, right? Like, if I call you, I text you. If you text a girl, you call a girl. Or if
I'm not talking about dating or anything. I'm talking about like elementary school. I'm talking about being a kid, and the socialization that we had as kids by the freedom that our parents gave us, by just being able to hop on your bike at 6, 7 years old and go cruise the neighborhood, and it was safe to do it, gave me a completely different social aspect and social talent, I guess, social security, right? Compared to what my kids have now. I mean, it's night and day.
Where do you live in? What side of town do you live in? Like,
I live over in the Montrose area, kind of in between River Oaks and Montrose.
In the city.
In the city, yeah, definitely.
But the city tends to be more dangerous than the suburb most of the time, right? You have to be.
I don't know. I think anywhere can be dangerous, but I mean, it just depends on what part of the city you're living in. But my point is, in the city, in the suburbs, in the country, in the past, your parents didn't care. Your alarm clock to come home was when the street light came on. That was like, you better get your ass home because dinner's being served, right? And you didn't have like, now my kids ask if they can go outside, and it's like, okay, you can, but I'll go hang out there with you, right? You want to ride your bike? All right, let's go ride the bike as a family. It's a totally different time.
Do you think that a lot of parents nowadays are not spending enough time with their children that were you describing, or compared to what kids used to be back in the day, where we didn't have to spend enough time with them, they didn't spend enough time with us, where they could be on their own and do their things, and there was no criminal aspect to things. Nobody got in trouble. Do you think that nowadays parents are not spending enough time with their kids, that we have all these school shootings and we have all kinds of crazy things going on?
I think you're on the wrong track there.
I'm asking.
I think you're on the wrong track there, what you're saying, because my parents spent time with me at dinner, at breakfast. That was about it. Other than that, I was on my own. And they gave me that freedom. And so I was able to figure out how to do everything on my own. It was, nowadays, your parents are I would argue that there's too much control.
Because I think I'm understanding you. So, back in the day, there wasn't as much hovering over the kids, right?
There was zero.
There was zero hovering over the kids. Nowadays, there's a lot of hovering over the kids. So,
The reason for that is because of the media. I really believe this, that the media sensationalizes kidnappings, child abuse, teacher abuse, anything that sells a story, they put it out there. And of course, as parents, you see that and you read about it, or you see it on YouTube or whatever now, and you don't want your child associated with that. And I don't know what the numbers are, but I would be willing to bet the odds of something happening to your child is very, 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 very small compared to if you were to do a poll and ask every parent in this bar or in the city if they thought something may happen to their child versus what actually happens to children, I think it would be way off.
The odds used to be lesser back then.
No. I think the odds are exactly the same. I think the same amount of sick people are out there. Okay? The same amount of sick people are out there. But the difference is, when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, in the 60s, there wasn't the news coverage about it.
glamorized.
There weren't movies about it. It's been totally glamorized.
Right.
That's how they sell.
It's like
That's how they
these
sell
damn shooters.
movies. And so, I think that the craziness in America is about the same. It's just a guess, but
It just wasn't glamorous.
but I think if you actually look at the numbers, I think I'm right.
I agree with you.
voted
And you know what
more
I
in
think?
America
So you,
for
like, you have these
votes.
like school shootings that just happened recently, right? So my nieces.
I think school shootings are probably way up.
But here's
But
the thing. The reason
they've
why
been
is people want to
sensationalized.
yes, and if they would just instead of giving these kids a name on the news, if they would give them a number, show their face, and tag them with a number
Yeah.
where they can't be glamorized, they'd stop this shit because that's
Or-
what they want. They want
or-
that thing. Like no, listen, yes,
And they
I'm
give
gonna
them-
tell
they
you
give them
something. My
fame.
nieces today, there was a active shooting in Noblesville, Indiana. In Noblesville, Indiana today. My nieces go to school there. There was an active shooter in school there today. But these kids want to be glamorized. Fuck that shit. Don't glamorize them. Give them a fucking number. Don't give them a name. Show their face. If you don't know them, they're
show
a
their
number.
face fuzzed out.
They're
Show
a
their
number.
face fuzzed out,
This will stop.
and this is number 68 of
Yeah,
the
you
school
want to be.
shootings.
They just want to be glamorized. You know?
Absolutely,
They don't care to
and
take it out.
not
They just
only
want to be
that,
glamorized.
not only that, but I would report it locally to the local people, but I wouldn't make it national news because what that does is it tells other children because every child now that's another difference from when I grew up. When I grew up, we definitely were home for Saturday morning cartoons, right? We definitely wrestling. We were definitely there for the Tonight Show if our parents would let us stay up that late. There were certain shows that we were
SNL.
definitely there for. Now, the internet gives you access to everything, anytime, 24 hours a day. Doesn't matter what time it is, whatever. And so we have 24-hour access to all this horrible stuff, right? And so there are so many more people in the United States now that know about this horrible stuff.
Yeah, he was.
And the people that were maybe considering doing something horrible now are like, hey man, that's a great idea. I'm gonna fuck that girl that wouldn't go on to prom with me. Fuck her. I'm gonna kill her. Or fuck that guy that called me an idiot or whatever. Right? Because they're fucked in the head. But they have
Hot lip Superman.
an outlet now because someone else made it okay. And I never heard of any shooting in any school the entire time I was growing up.
So back in the day, you know, like when we were in high school, 46 and 40 years old. So if someone bully you, someone make fun of you, what did you do? What was your plan of action? What did you do?
I was a pretty big dude when I was in high school, so no one ever bullied me.
How tall are you? Are you tall?
6 foot.
6 foot?
That was
Big
the
dude?
Yeah.
So if someone bullied you, let's say someone picked on you, right? Because this kid was a football player, right?
Here, camera back on me, because I'll tell you a story now about bullying. Because it's bullshit.
The mom?
What has happened with bullying from my day and now? My son is in 6th grade. He just started middle school, and he's 12 years old. And big transition from elementary school to middle school. So he's already kind of struggling with that, which is cool. He's making the struggle. He's making it work. He's making good grades. I always drop him off a few minutes early outside the school so he can socialize with his friends. And so we do that. And about lunchtime one day, I get a call from my ex-wife, says, hey, Cole is my son's name. It says, hey, Cole is in the principal's office, and I'm not sure what's wrong, but they've called me to tell me that he's in trouble. And I said, okay, well, call me when you know the full story. If I need to head that way, I'll head that way. What the hell? Because he's a good kid. He's a Boy Scout. He's like this. He's a good kid. And so, come to find out the whole story. from the principal. And the story was that my son and 2 other boys were messing around outside. Now they're in 6th grade. They're 12 years old. Okay, 11 and 12 years old. They're messing around outside the front of the school, and they're playing hits. And I'm sure you used to play hits with somebody where you hit the arm until someone gives up. Someone says uncle, right? Someone, you know what I'm talking about. They're playing hits, and my son said, "Hey, I'm good, uncle." Right? Whatever he said, he's done. The kid that he was playing with was like, "Okay," and now he's not done. So, or he said, "I'm done." I'm like, my son thinks it's all over.
Is there a
with.
crowd watching?
There's people around.
Okay.
But
that makes a difference, right?
Sort of, but let me finish the story. So my son thinks it's over with because he tells him he's done, and the kid walks off. Now the kid all of a sudden decides he's not done anymore, walks up behind my son and kicks him in the nuts from behind. So does one of these, right, to his nuts, to his 12-year-old nuts. First time he's ever been kicked in the nuts in his life, I think. And so my son drops to the ground. While he's on the ground, another kid comes over to him and says, "Are you going to get up, you fucking pussy? You're not going to do anything about this, you fucking pussy?" At 12 years old in 6th grade. These are all 6th graders. And the kid gets right in my son's face while he's on the ground, and he starts pointing his face. "You're not going to do nothing, you pussy." The kid that didn't kick him. And so my son pops up, and when he popped up, he decks that kid. Okay? And he now falls to the ground. And then the teacher sees my son hit the other kid.
Now your son is in trouble.
Now my son's in big trouble. He almost got expelled for it.
Wow. Private school and public school?
Public school, HISD. And so that's when the principal was like, he can't do that. That kid didn't touch him. And so my ex-wife's explaining all this stuff to me over the phone, and I said, "Honey,
you gotta defend yourself."
I don't know what he did. What did he do wrong?
You're on the ground, they're kicking you. Right.
And what he did wrong was that kid didn't actually physically touch him. And
there's technicalities. Oh my God.
And so I said, "Okay, well, there's not a jury in America that would agree that my son messed up there because he's defending himself." I mean, if you're in a fight and one guy kicks you and knocks you down, and another guy comes and gets in your face, you're going to defend yourself.
Absolutely.
This day and age, though, at least in HISD, and I'm imagining in all school districts, bullying and assault and all that stuff, even though he didn't start any of it. In fact, he tried to end it when they were messing around, and he said, "I'm done." He almost got expelled for it. And so that's another.
It's a Coro law. Coro law in the school district nowadays. So, hey, you don't get hit, you don't attack, right? But he got attacked verbally. So, look, if somebody call you a pussy, or something, you have to because if not, all the other kids are gonna pick on you, right?
For the rest of the year or forever.
Forever until you.
Or forever. And then guess what happens? Guess what happens then?
Yeah.
Then you go home and you cry yourself to sleep on your pillow. And you have nothing. You have no friends, and every
kid that goes out and shoots the classroom up.
Sorry,
you know what I mean.
That's exactly my point. And you have no way to relieve that issue that you should have never been involved with, but you're not allowed to finish what was supposed to happen. And so once you get into 13, 14, 15 years old, you realize you can go buy a gun, boom, 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 boom. Hello? I mean,
People,
fucking.
we have how mass shootings start. Right here. Right here. Seriously.
I mean, it doesn't take a fucking
Rocket science.
rocket scientist or brain surgeon to figure that one out. But back in the day, when I grew up, when you grew up, you handled your shit. If someone called you a pussy when you were on the ground for not standing up, either you didn't stand up and you were just a pussy, or you stood up like my son did and he popped that motherfucker in his mouth and ended it. And guess what? By the way, my son and that guy that called him a pussy are friends. Just like it happened to you. Just like, and that's life. And that's part of being a guy.
Being a kid.
And being a kid and making mistakes and learning from your mistakes.
Kids are being hovered on. They're being sheltered. Now, do you think, I always thought about this when I was a kid. So sometimes, at times, your arch nemesis in school became your best friend because they taught you something that you did not know. One of my best friends,
Usually if someone, your arch nemesis, if they, let's say that you got in a fight, okay? I don't know what you mean by arch nemesis other than, let's say you guys actually fought.
a kid in school that, doesn't play to your play.
Okay? Usually, or at least my experience was, as soon as you call his ass out, or he calls you out, and once you guys actually have a confrontation, that's it.
You became friends?
Maybe not all the time, but most of the time, because all that you're kids, and you're just trying to see who can push each other, and we're like animals, it's a hierarchy, and our brains work the same way, and so when you try and put
chimpanzees, right?
When you try and put our brains in an enclosure and not allow us to develop like that, then we're screwed. We're screwed as humans.
What advice would you give the younger generation? One advice. One word, one sentence.
Listen to your parents and fuck everybody else. That's what I would give them, is listen to your parents and fuck everyone else. Don't listen to the people in school that are telling you this and that, and don't listen to all those people because they're on a program that's like government run, right? And not that I'm like this psycho anti-government person.
But do you think teachers are on a program nowadays where they're programmed to teach kids, let's do this, let's do that, don't do this, don't do that, and everything else, if it's not within the program?
I think that 100% of what's happening with the school shootings and what's happening with kids, like the millennial crowd, is because teachers are taking over parenting. Parents used to be the parents.
Is it parents not being parents and letting the teachers be the parents?
It's a whole lot of both. It's a whole lot of both, and I don't know where, in different neighborhoods and different cultures and different everything. I imagine, I don't know this for a fact, but I would imagine it's completely different. But a lot of parents rely on the school system to raise their children.
You just don't. So what I wanted to say to you, what I wanted to interject was, what we were talking about earlier, is that children today,
And it ain't electroplators
they
either.
they aren't grounded, they are not disciplined. They do not.
Well, you can't even spank your kid.
No, you can't.
You got that kid can go to the restaurant and get an attorney.
The bigger thing to that is not only are they not disciplined or spanked or any of that stuff, but they're not allowed to, even I'm guilty of it. My 9-year-old asked me, hey, can I go play outside? And I said, yeah, let me get my stuff together and I'll come out there with you.
Because you're afraid to leave them out there because it's dangerous now.
Even though it's not really that dangerous.
But it could be.
But it
Depends on where you
potentially
live.
could be.
It can happen once, that's all it takes.
It potentially could be. And so my 9-year-old didn't get the same like street smarts and
Oh, they're so sheltered, they don't even know how to
they're so
get out of the
sheltered.
house.
All kids are so sheltered
Here's
now.
the thing, though. Kids today, I think that the parents, they want to be more friends with them than parents. So
Definitely.
now kids are not disciplined. Like, before you could spank your kids, you could ground them like when we grew up. Dude, you did something wrong, bam.
You're in the fucking
grounded.
closet.
You're fucking in the hole.
I gotta promise you, the first time my dad back
Let
in
me
and
throw
beat
another
him
one
out,
at you. Here's
I never
another one.
forgot it.
But now,
Here's another one. Parents are divorced now, way more than they were when we were growing
The
up.
only
Okay,
place they had to talk to.
way more.
No one to talk to.
And so now, let's say my son is at my house and he fucked up doing something somewhere. Okay, but I don't want my son mad at me because he did that at his mom's house, and I want to be friends with my son. I don't want to necessarily punish him for whatever he did there.
Okay.
And so I coddled my son at that point, and I'm.
so you're guilty of that. But I will tell you something.
Well, I think not necessarily. I'm actually not guilty of that.
I came from a divorced family. My
I'm actually
parents,
not guilty of that, but a lot of people I think are guilty of that because they're playing their parents off of each other.
Here's the thing.
Hey, he did like I did though. He befriended his son.
No, but here's the thing.
Worked through problems.
I came from a divorced family. So my parents were married when I was 4 or 5. They were divorced by the time I was 11. But I tell you what, if I did anything wrong, they put the fear of God in me. Even divorce, yes.
Yeah, but
and
if
I
you do
was
that today,
grounded.
man,
I
your
was
kid can go
beat.
get
I
a
was
lawyer.
like,
Because of the court system
and
now,
you know what,
that doesn't
honestly,
happen.
And honestly, I think that I came out a better person. I have my own business. I think I have good
Yeah.
morals. I treat people well, you know. And I think my family, my parents, and God rest my mother's soul, they did an amazing job, I feel, raising me because I
Be
feel
the
like I
same way
came
about
out
it.
to be
But hey,
a
look.
really great person. I mean, because of my parents. Like,
Give me a
honestly.
minute to say one thing. Here's the fear of God now. Is
Film that way.
Here's the fear of God now. You spank your child at your house one day,
Oh,
and the next thing you know, the school board wants to talk to you. You're the son of a bitch that's in major trouble. Your kid's got the clout with the lawyers
yeah.
and everybody.
But when I was a kid, my
And
dad
you're
beat my
fucked.
ass with a belt. My mom would come with a wooden spoon. Put your hands out. If I pull back, two
And you
more.
didn't fuck up because you
Nope.
knew that if you did,
Yep.
that wooden spoon was coming out again.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
by the way, you
Done.
swallow
My
a
dad had
switch, go
Mr.
get
B.
one.
Mr. B, and guess
Done.
what? America, guess what, America?
Mr. B.
Done.
Another
Like, seriously,
groundbreaker.
My mom would like, Michelle, put your hands
My
up.
dad would pop
And if I would
his
pull my
belt.
hands back, I would hit two.
Okay, like he would put it in
My
he would
dad
tie
would
it
take
together
his arm
and
and
pow,
California was-
and it made that snap sound. He never hit me with it one time ever, but I was deathly
But I'm gonna
afraid of
tell you
that thing.
something.
And guess who else
I
is
am
deathly afraid of
I hate
Mr.
it,
B?
But I am so
My
thankful
9-year-old
today that
and my
parents were who they
12-year-old.
were.
And they don't fuck up because they're scared of Mr. B. And that should be
I
legal.
thought I came out to be a pretty good
Because
person, you know?
that
I
is
thought
how
I was,
children
You did too.
learn
I know him, I
and
know he did.
respect elders. They're,
But I
mean,
feel like I came out to be a pretty
I don't
good
know.
person.
I feel like even talking to this video, I feel like people are gonna be watching this video going, "Oh man, that guy's so abusive to his children because he scares them." But there are pussies in America, and there are, you know, the way left leaning. You have to be nice.
Man,
and you have to
Democrats
do
were all in for
this.
the destruction of the home. Divide and conquer.